The next type of sort we're going to talk about is the insertion sort. So insertion sort is kind of like playing cards. So you look at your first card and it's a 2, so you put it down. And the second one you look at is a 5, so 5 comes after 2, so you put it down here after 2. Next you pull a 1, so you want the 1 to go in front of the 2, so you shift down the 5, you shift down the 2, and you put a 1 in there. Then the next one you put is a 4, so you shift down the 5, the 1 and the 2 stay the same, and the 4 goes in there. And the last one you pick is a 3, so you shift the 5 and the 4 down, and the 3 goes in there. So if you can think of insertion sort as like sorting your cards if you're playing cards, and that's how it works. So in Eclipse, I'm going to create a new Java program called Lesson 40 Insertion, just so we can kind of keep them straight. I'm going to copy and paste stuff from Lesson 40 in here. Instead of Lesson 40 up here, call it Lesson 40 Insertion. Instead of calling it selection sort here, we're going to call it insertion sort. And down here we also need to change it to insertion sort. This is still an incremental approach, but instead of swapping numbers in the array, it goes through the numbers one by one and shifts to make room in order. So we're going to remove this code inside of here. We don't need any of that yet, or any more after this one. So what we're going to have to do is, if you look at how this is done, this is the way your book has it laid out. It goes through the numbers one by one and just keeps looking at the next number, then the next number, then the next number. So we're going to need a loop that is going to do that. And then we're going to also have to have a loop that does this kind of insertion scooting, basically. So we're going to go ahead and create our code for that. So remember when we inserted the 1, we had to scoot both the 2 and the 5 down, but when we inserted the 4, we only had to scoot the 4 down, or the 5 down to put the 4 in there, not the 2 or the 1. So that's the same kind of logic that we're going to need for our code. So we're going to create 2 ints, an item to insert, and we're also going to create j up here. And we're also going to come up with a boolean of keep going. So keep going is basically going to tell us whether our line is done or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and start our loop it's going to go through. So int k equals 1, k less than a dot length, so it goes through our entire array, k plus plus. So what this loop is going to do is it's going to go through, and on whatever k is at that moment, it's going to insert k into its proper position in the array. So what we're going to do is we're going to go backwards through our list looking for the spot to insert. So like on here, when we inserted the 4, we didn't start at 1, 2, we started at 5 and then put 4 in because it was less than 5. So that's the kind of code that we're going to create. All right, so we're going to set our item to insert as location AK. We're going to get j to be equal to k minus 1. And up here, we're also going to set keep going to true. So we'll change that later, or not, depending on whatever loop we're in. And we already have an error. There needs to be a semicolon right here. Okay, so now that we have this kind of set up, what we need to do is we need to create our nested loop. So while j is greater than or equal to 0, like our first pass, if k is 1, then j is 0. And so I'm going to put another parenthesis out here. We're going to use a Boolean test and keep going, because keep going right now is true. So as long as j is greater than or equal to 0 and keep going is true, this will execute. Now that we're in here, we're going to run an if test. So if our item to insert is less than whatever is in AJ, then what we're going to do is we're going to swap the spots. So then AJ plus 1 is now equal to AJ. We're going to decrease J, and we're going to run a quick test inside this loop to test J is equal to -1, because now we decrease J, it's -1. We don't want to, mess with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set A sub 0 to item to insert. So that way, if the number is the lowest, it's going to go in the front. And then close that, because we're just going to do one line in here. And we're going to put a comment in here. This is just a special case for inserting an item at the 0 location. Okay, so upon leaving the loop, j plus 1 is going to be the location or the index where the item to insert belongs. So what we're going to do in this else is we're going to set keep going to false. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a.j plus 1 equals item to insert. Okay, semicolon. And if we run this, this also works. You're now ready to move on to the next video for lesson 40.